It's that time once again to unleash the greatest intro in the history of YouTube on the world. It's been a while since I used it, so please take a moment and bask in its excellence. Let's discuss. Our content sucks. Our content sucks.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
It's been a little while since I made a video that was MCU related, so either Marvel Studios has pumped the brakes on dishing out mediocre content non-stop, or I've just been lucky enough to avoid whatever content and news that may have come out since their last release. Either way, I feel truly blessed to be in this situation.
Nobody likes a smartass, alright?
Unfortunately, the Marvels is approaching faster than an angry fanboy in my YouTube comment section, ready to unleash on the first unsuspecting victim who shows a lack of interest in this film. And the director of this film, Nia Decosta, has already come out and expressed some concern about how the box office of the movie will perform without its leading ladies promoting it. She is, of course, referring to the ongoing strikes in Hollywood that prevent people who were involved with the film from promoting it. She said, quote, "I'm hoping I'm not promoting the movie by myself. No one's there to see me. They're going to be like, where's Brie Larson?" Are they, though? Are they really? First off, I just want to point out how inherently strange it is that we currently find ourselves in a world where some directors are openly speaking about their film possibly flopping. Because when they do that, it kind of feels like they don't have a lot of confidence in their work. And when you talk about it flopping before it even comes out, you're not exactly selling general audiences on the prospect of seeing it.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
And then you have this whole added element and a current trend where those involved with the film try to set up these built-in excuses that are used later on as a way to deflect blame when the film ultimately underperforms. We saw this with Blue Beetle recently as well, where the studio tried to place blame for the lack of success of a movie that nobody cared about on everything from a hurricane all the way down to the Hollywood strikes.
You're pathetically predictable.
We saw something similar during the pandemic era, which was a bit more understandable. The issue is that when it was all over, the media still tried to use the phrase post-pandemic to justify poor box office performances. Meanwhile, actual good movies were still performing well, basically proving the old notion that if you make a good film, most likely people are going to show up. I know it's crazy to think about, but it does happen.
That makes sense.
As it pertains to the Marvels, I have a hard time wrapping my head around the idea that the strikes, of all things, are the main reason why people might not go watch this movie. First off, does anyone really base whether or not they're going to go and see a movie on promotional interviews? Does an actor or actress reciting the same regurgitated answers to the same boring questions excite people enough to make them want to go watch a movie that they previously had no interest in? I would venture to say that not as much as most people would think.
No chance.
Plus, this notion that people will be wondering where Brie Larson is, of all people, is honestly pretty laughable. Let's not forget that The Marvels, once upon a time, was a straight-up sequel to Captain Marvel, a solo project. And there were even rumors that Brie Larson's Captain Marvel would be taking over as the lead of the MCU after Tony Stark and Steve Rogers' departure. And all of this was undone by Brie Larson's pretty unlikable image that frankly she created while promoting Captain Marvel through awkward interviews and soapbox declarations.
It wasn't made for him.
I would even go as far as to say the less people see of Brie Larson promoting this film, the better the film might actually do. The article that I'm basing this whole video on talks about how the strikes most likely won't end by the time it's time to promote the Marvels, and that the film might have to rely on merit and merit alone. Oh, what a shame. You mean the movie will actually have to be good enough to generate legit word of mouth in order to be successful? What a shame that it won't be propped up by fake hype and phony interviews.
Well, the world's a twisted place.
I saw another article from the same website that tried to save face and talk about how The Marvels was voted the most anticipated movie of the fall season on Fandango, which must have been really hard with all the stiff competition it's facing with A Haunting in Venice and The Expendables 4 and a Hunger Games prequel that is starring the other most unlikable person in Hollywood.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937.
And it was voted most anticipated despite, quote, trolling over CGI effects seen in the trailers. This is basically confirming what we talk about all the time. That being, if you express valid criticism about anything, both the media and the people who are excited for that movie will most likely call you a hater or a troll. It's no wonder that my comment section looks the way that it does sometimes. People are quite literally being brainwashed in the media by this groupthink mentality.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
When it comes right down to it, it's been a pretty rough year for Marvel Studios. And it's not because of the trolls, as this article would suggest. It's because they just aren't producing a good product anymore, and people are starting to recognize that. And they aren't producing projects around characters that the general public cares about anymore either.
See, nobody cares.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that The Marvels is definitely going to flop, because MCU movies are kind of hard to read sometimes. And let's face it, a lot of people who go to see those movies are pretty loyal to mediocrity. But from what I see and the impression I get, I just don't see a lot of interest in this movie. And this feels like the studio and the director recognize this. And they're already looking for someone to blame rather than taking responsibility for creating a poor product. I guess we'll have to wait and see how this all turns out in November, but it's clear to me that The Marvels is facing an uphill battle for a multitude of reasons, and it doesn't feel like this will be the film that will restore the public's faith in the MCU brand like they want it to, and it's going to take a lot more than some promotional interviews and the strike to end to get people invested in your product again. Here we go again, the man baby upset because a movie dares to put females at the forefront. Do you ever get tired of being a misogynist? The Marvels is easily my most anticipated movie of the year. All hail Queen Brie. Yes, Queen! I'm sure your upcoming review will be filled with talks of bad CGI and a bad story, but we all know that you'll just be hiding your true issue with the film, that being you're a MCU hater and a Brie Larson hater. And once again, you'll find yourself in the minority when the Brie army comes for you and puts you in your place, that being back in your mother's basement, incel.
Y'all be cool. Right on.